Coach Donovan here for his pregame, and we will get going with Joe Cowley.
Hey, Billy, was there any update as far as what Lowry and Arch were able to do? Did they stay negative, and are they back in the gym at least getting a workout and getting some reps in?
Yeah, they're still negative, and they've been able to get some work in, which was good. That was I think our main concern was, obviously they continue to test negative, and they're not working out of their quarantining. So we've been able to get them some work in through the league. Obviously, the league plays a major role in that, working with them on it. But we have been able to get some work done, which I think has been at least good, considering it's been about a week since they've really had any kind of work like that.
Are they going to be able to rejoin you guys and be with the team as soon as you guys get back home, or is there still a testing period that they have to go through? Is it 6 negatives they have to have or something like that?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure, Joe, what the number is, but I think obviously there's been nothing that's come out that's where they've tested positive. So my guess would be when we get back, they'd be able to rejoin the team. But again, I think the NBA will obviously make a huge decision on that. They'll be behind the decision. The biggest thing for us is we get back, can we just integrate them right back into the team? My guess would be they continue to test negative, but we'd only have really one day between the next game that we would play. So I think if they can get some work in, while we're out west, that's helpful to reacclimating them to the team, and then hopefully them being in a position physically where they could potentially play the next game.
Thanks, Billy.
You're welcome.
Chuck Swirsky, go ahead.
Billy, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. I have a quick question just about 2 players since you're in Southern California that you coached. Just to get a little bit of background as far as coaching Dennis Schroeder, who you had in OKC, along with Paul George, who we'll see on Sunday.
Yeah, both guys are great guys, really, really competitive. I give Dennis a lot of credit. It was, being a starting point guard for Atlanta for a few years, and then the trade happened, and then, his willingness and to come off the bench and to help the group the way he did. I think for both years we had him, he was certainly up for 6th man of the year. I thought he was incredibly valuable to us both years that we had him. He's obviously more than capable of being a starter. As you see now, he's starting for the Lakers. Highly competitive, smart basketball player. Just, I think, continues to get better. I think still has a lot of really good basketball in front of him. Paul George, another great guy, was great to work with. The unfortunate part, I thought, the last year I was with him was, he had 2 torn shoulders he was playing with, right after the All-Star break. And he certainly was playing at an incredibly high level and, was certainly right in the mix of, MVP voting. And some people thought maybe going into the All-Star break, he was maybe the leader for the MVP. But, I really enjoyed him. He's another guy, smart, bright. He's obviously battled a really, really devastating injury and has reinvented himself in a lot of ways. But just both those guys are great guys, great competitors, and loved working with both of them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sam Smith, go ahead.
Billy, you've called a number of timeouts early in quarters, different games. Is that because of mistakes somebody's made? Is it change in strategy, matchups? What are those generally, the reasoning for those?
I think it's probably been a couple of reasons, Sam. One, maybe the disposition in which we started the game, kind of trying to get the guys refocused. 2, it could be mistakes, things that maybe we talked about going into the preparation, of the game that we deemed being something that was going to be critically important to play at a level, to put ourselves in position to win that we're not doing well. It probably at that early juncture of the game is probably not necessarily strategy as much as the way we're playing the game and what are the things that we are doing or need to be doing better.
Is that something you've done more with this team? Would have fewer veterans than teams you've had before?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've had times, we're coming out of third quarters with teams where, we've come out of the locker room. I know that was a challenge for us sometimes in Oklahoma City last year where, we played really well in the first half, and sometimes we'd start that third quarter and we'd be up and the other team would kind of come out of the locker room with a lot more maybe energy or pop than we had. and I'd have to call a quick timeout to try to get our guys back to, playing at the level they were during the first half. So, I mean, a lot of it's just based on what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing, and feel like, what I can maybe share with the guys. Sometimes it's not necessary. A veteran can kind of get the message across, but generally those early timeouts have been because of that, something that we're not doing that we really have talked a lot about going into that game that we're not doing early in the game, just to get them kind of refocused back on the things that we have to do to be, competitive and put ourselves in a position to win.
Thanks.
Welcome.
Bill Oram, go ahead.
Thank you. Hey, Billy, if you'll entertain another question on Dennis, I'm just wondering what he's talked a little bit since he got here about the value of learning from Russ and CP each year he was there. I'm curious what you saw maybe was the biggest value for him playing with those two guys those 2 years.
Yeah, I think I don't know. Dennis could probably speak more to what the value was for him personally. But the thing that I really admired about Dennis was, we had 3 point guards that were all very, very good and all very, very worthy of having the ball in their hands for, the majority of the game. But I spoke to those guys and told them that I felt like for us to be the best team we could be, we had to play those 3 guys together. And that in order to play those 3 guys together, there was going to have to be a level of sacrifice that each guy was going to have to, endure and take on. And for Dennis, it was coming off the bench. For Shea, it was moving off the ball. For Chris, it was at times giving the ball over to Dennis or to Shea some. They all had to give up a little bit of something. And Dennis is all about winning. That's the thing that I admire about him. He's incredibly competitive. Even listening to Chris Paul talk about him, and I think Chris and he really had a great connection on the court playing because Chris, I think, really helped Dennis in a lot of ways because I think he knew the sacrifices that Dennis was making. So I think he a lot of times tried to make sure Dennis had the ball in his hands. But Chris knew that if we were not playing well or we got down, Dennis has got great fight in him. And, what he learned from those guys from a basketball standpoint and what he learned from Chris or Russ is he could probably speak to that. But he always has put the team first. He's always done that. And, even coming to LA and saying that he wants to start, he told me the same thing when he came to Oklahoma City. I respect that, that he wants that kind of role and that kind of responsibility. But if you talk to him and say, listen, this is what we feel is best for the team, he's going to do what's best for the team. He's always been that kind of guy. And I really appreciate that because he's more than capable of being a starter and probably deserves to be starting here in LA.
Darnell, you're next.
Thanks, Kristen. Billy, I don't even know if LeBron's going to play on the second night of a back-to-back, but if he does, will you throw Patrick Williams at him like you did Giannis?
Yeah, I mean, that would be something I think we would definitely look at doing. We're probably going to have to do a lot of different people because he obviously comes out early in the first and generally comes back a little bit later in the first or to start the second. So we're going to have a couple different people on him. There's no question Patrick will be on him some, but we're going to have to find some other matchups for him as well.
And what will you look for out of Patrick if LeBron is playing and he's guarding him?
Well, I think that, again, for Patrick, these are all tremendous learning experiences playing against these high caliber players. And he's going to, I'm sure he learned a lot going against Giannis. He'll learn a lot playing against LeBron. Different players, different styles. I think that, he'll have to do a good job in the post because LeBron obviously posts a lot. He's going to have to do a really good job in pick and roll, getting over screens because LeBron's great in pick and roll. And then I think the biggest thing is, transition our team getting back and forming some walls and providing some help for him where he's not left out on an island in transition. Because once LeBron starts to get ahead of steam, it's very, very difficult to prevent him from getting where he wants to get to. And I think we've got to be able to try to show him a crowd and put people in front of him. That's part of Patrick's job, but it can't be his total job. That's got to be a collection from a team standpoint. But, he's going to, he's watched film. He's prepared. I don't think you learn about playing against players until you actually go through it. And these experiences will be good for him and he'll learn something from this. But he's got to do a great job of not fouling. That's really important. He's got to stay down. He's got to try to keep himself between him and the basket. He's got to really look to pick him up early and not get so far back that he's got a head of steam coming at him. You know, he and Giannis are just totally different players, you know, in a lot of ways, but they're also obviously both great at what they do.
Thank you.
Yep.
Looks like we have one more quick one from Joe Cowley.
Hey, Billy, real quick. Is Arturas, does he go on these trips, or what's his kind of protocol? I mean, you know, different front offices work differently. Are he and Mark, do they travel, or are they staying away and they just talk to you on the phone or Zoom or whatever?
No, they travel. I mean, Mark's here on this trip. You know, Arturas was on the last trip that we were on. They kind of rotate. I'm not quite sure what their, you know, how they break that up or what they do. You know, certainly this time of year as they prepare and scouting and watching college players in the draft and those things and looking forward, I'm sure they've got guys doing some of those things, but they've rotated. You know, we've had a couple different front office guys on the trip. Somebody from the front office has been on every trip so far, but it's been different people. Mark's with us on this trip and Arturas with us on the last trip.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, looks like that's it for the pregame. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.